So today in the wood shop I'm making tabletops. Over here I have two piles of wood. This is for a dining table. These are both dining tables. One I made the base for already. But these boards are reasonably flat. And I'm going to run them through the planer on the back side to get them all the parallel, same thickness. And the infeed and outfeed rollers in my planer are strong enough that it can flatten the boards if it's a little bit warped. So, if they're not perfectly flat, I don't need to worry about it. But if the wood is too warped, it's not really going to work very well to run through my planer. As you probably know, if you've worked with twisted, warped lumber, it can cause problems. So this wood is fine. This wood over here is going to have some issues. These are two more tabletops I'm doing. And this is a tabletop for this coffee table base here. So these planks are a little bit too warped to run through my planer. As you can see, there's some substantial cupping going on. This plank over here especially is bad. Normally that piece of wood would not be suitable to use for anything. But I'm going to show a technique that I've used before that is reasonably successful to flatten wood to make use of material. And if I use warped lumber, it could warp the whole table and it wouldn't sit flat on the floor and cause problems like that. Or it can crack and that can cause problems too. So this board has some cuppage in it. That's a little bit extreme. If I run this through to my planer as it is, it might flatten it out, but that might also risk cracking it here in the center where it's cupped the most. So what I'm going to do is, this is the top surface, so I'm going to flip it over on the back. Mark that just in case. I'm going to make some cuts with my circular saw. I'm going to set the depth about three quarters of the thickness of the wood. So this board here is a little bit more complicated. It's got some tight circular grain here, so it's got some cuppage. It's also got a series of spike knots situated here, and that's creating a lot of internal stress. You can see two of them on this surface, and then there's a third one that goes all the way through the board. And it seems like that one is the one that's creating this extreme twisting. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make two parallel cuts where this tight circular grain is. I'm also going to make some cuts here perpendicular to this spike knot, and hopefully that'll relieve some of that internal stress and get that board to flatten out. Okay, so I've completed my cuts on my planks to alleviate residual stresses in the board and flatten it out enough to run through my planer. So I'm going to do that now, and then do the rest of the steps to edge and glue the boards together. And then if I need to reinforce any of these cuts to bring back more structural integrity to the board, then I can do that at the end. So I'm going to let this glue set up for 2 or 3 hours. To recap what I just did, I cut saw curves about 3/4 of the way through the thickness of the board in order to alleviate some of the residual forces that were causing it to warp. So once I did that, I was able to run it through my planer to thickness it to the right thickness, and then I drove these wedges in here to actually add residual force. So making the cut, it severs some of the wood fibers inside that are causing it to warp, and then I add more force in the opposite direction to push it apart further, and that helps counteract the spring back that would be present as I unclamp this through the surface. So I'm